recognize these people. Jon and Missy Butcher.
Hi, everybody.
The creators of Lifebook, and two of the most incredible individuals I know on the planet.
Thank you.
So Jon, why I wanted to do this interview with you and Missy is because, well, on Lifebook, you've had thousands of people take your online assessment where people rate themselves in 12 different categories of living, right? And these are the 12 categories I speak about in my book because they're such a beautiful way of viewing the world. But here's the interesting thing. If you look at all of these 12 categories, the one that people, you said, consistently score the lowest is finance, right? And we can understand that because everybody wishes they were a little bit wealthier than they are, right? No matter how much money we get, we always want a little bit more. But what's interesting is the second category is love. And this is what I wanted to keep this interview focused on. Because not only is love one of the things that leads to the biggest doses of happiness in our lives, but as you can tell from the fact that it's the second lowest ranked category in most people's lives, it can be challenging. We all know the statistics, half of marriages end in divorce.
That's right.
Many people, even when they do stay married, they end up in these lifeless, boring marriages as they get older. But you guys have created something different. You guys are two of the most adorable couples I know. I mean, you can't sit together without acting like two 17-year-olds in love. Look, you're basically
it's great.
bumping knees. You can't keep your hands off each other. I just need you to focus on the interview right now, okay, kids?
Yes.
So what we wanted to talk about is to understand your mind, Jon, Missy, and how you guys perceive love. What has allowed you to create such a incredible relationship that has spanned now over 3 decades. So let's begin.
Okay.
Now the first question is, why was it so important to you? Why is this marriage, this love relationship that you have, so important to you?
Well, from the beginning of our relationship, I think from the very first year that we were together, Missy and I decided that we wanted to create a legendary love affair. I don't know where that came from. I don't know what the sort of, emotional or psychological driver for that was. We were kids, we were very young. But it seemed incredibly important to us to go all in and put everything we have into this relationship and to see what we could build together in the world. Do you have any clue where that came from?
I think for me, my parents had a massive effect on our relationship because they were in love. They had their hands all over each other all the time. I grew up, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. John's the oldest of 7. And my parents' relationship was amazing. They were always happy. They were kissing each other. I never saw them fight. And so for me, coming in when I met Jon, that's just what I wanted and what he wanted separately. So together we created that. I think that that
clearly,
was the foundation
so
for sure.
if we back up a little bit, Missy's folks, that was the first great relationship I ever saw. I actually didn't see anything but dysfunctional relationships until I was well into my 20s. And so it's clear why Missy had more of a natural orientation to want to create a great love relationship. It was a revelation to me that a great love relationship was even possible. So first year we were together, we just made a commitment to each other to create as extraordinary a love affair as we could. We made a commitment to explore sensuality and eroticism deeply together. We made a commitment to being great parents and to keeping our relationship full of fun and excitement and to just put a tremendous amount of time and energy into it. I mean, that's one of the most critical things, is just a commitment to investing energy into your relationship. Take it seriously as a priority.
But it's more than just a commitment, right? Because if you look at what you guys did, Missy, you basically got your premises of love from watching your parents. In other words, it's contagious. It trickles down.
Right. That's right.
The interesting thing here is, so in Jon and Missy's life book, they speak of this concept called premise, right? Your premise is what do you believe about something, your fundamental beliefs. In consciousness engineering, my work, I call it models of reality. But know that those words are very similar. So what are some of the premises that you guys have about love? What are your models of reality of love that you have that you think are unusual from the rest of the population?
That are unusual.
Well, okay, so our first one in our life book is that our relationship is the foundation of our life. Everything is built on top of it. our relationship with our children, our businesses, our financial life, our quality of life, our adventures. Everything is built on top of our love relationship. If our love is strong and solid and firing on all cylinders, it's a strong foundation for everything else. If we're having trouble, if our love is all jacked up and broken, everything falls apart. Like, nothing works. So that's why we have to put so much time and energy in making sure it's healthy. That's the number one premise in our life book.
Sure.
The second premise in our life book is that extraordinary relationships require extraordinary people. This is interesting. We were talking about this the other night.
Yeah, we were.
We were thinking about where this came from. How we've been able to create this epic love affair. And Missy is the one that said it. She said, we were all in to our lives as people before we met and went all in to our relationship. So, and very, very few people do that. Here's what I mean, Vishen. We had made a decision early on. It was after reading Atlas Shrugged and a few other really influential sort of philosophical books. We decided that we wanted to squeeze every bit of excitement and enjoyment and passion out of this one life that we have. We made that decision separately as human beings, that we were going to go for it. We weren't going to leave anything on the table. And that's unusual, because I got to tell you, I've met very few people who have done that, and certainly back then I didn't know anybody that had done that. Maybe one of the reasons that attracted me so much to Missy and vice versa. So we'd made a decision to have an epic life before we came together. And then once we came together, now we're going to build an epic life together. So those are a couple of our premises. Anything come to your mind, Sue?
The thing that comes to my mind is that I think the reason that we were all in with our separate lives before we came together and put it all into our relationship was that we both had a sense, we were taught at a really young age, that we were responsible for our own well-being and for our own selves. I certainly grew up that way. My parents ingrained it into my being that I was responsible to take care of myself, to make sure that I did everything myself so that my life would be great. It wasn't their responsibility to take care of me. I mean, up to a certain point, of course, that's the case, but self-responsibility was definitely just ingrained.
So you came in as fully formed individuals, basically.
My path was a little bit different. I wasn't taught any of that as a kid. I had a super dysfunctional childhood, but I learned that as a teenager when I started reading Ayn Rand's work,
and
Nathaniel Branden's
psychology
work,
and things like that.
and even sort of understanding more about the universe through reading Carl Sagan and understanding about the cosmos that I live in and what my place is in that cosmos. I developed that same kind of a philosophy later in life than Missy. But by the time we got together, we were fully functional. We were all into this life. We knew that we were going to have an epic life. And then we came together, it was like a perfect storm.
So the first premise there is that your relationship is the foundation of everything else, right?
Yeah.
Your kids, your business. But this is where I wonder, is that safe for most people? Half of marriages end in divorce. And if you build that much on a relationship, and knowing that the probability of divorce on average is 50%, everything else could crumble. So is it really wise to make your relationship the basis for everything?
Premises are self-fulfilling prophecies, as you know. Beliefs are self-fulfilling prophecies. So if your belief is, 50% of marriages fail, so that gives me a 50-50 chance, I'm not sure.
So let's not go all in.
Exactly.
Right. So let's not make it the basis.
What's going to happen? How is that going to affect your daily actions? Versus, Missy and I were all in first year of our marriage. We're like, you know what? If this fails, if this crashes and burns, so be it. We're going to give it everything we have, with every molecule of our beings, and we've never looked back for 1 second since.
So what you're essentially saying is that one of the reasons 50% of marriages end in divorce is that we hear that 50% of marriages end in divorce.
I believe so.
Starts with your belief. So
Right, right. And so people refuse to make it the foundation of their lives.
It's too risky. It feels too risky.
Right. It feels risky.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that is one of the premises on which you guys built your love affair.
Let me just
That's
say
fundamentally different.
one thing about that, though. We know some couples. As you know, Vishen, we've met so many wonderful couples through Lifebook. And if you fall hard enough for each other, you'll know. You will know. This is it. I mean, yeah, 50% of marriages may end in divorce, but this one's not going to. I am in love with her. I am in love with him. This is what I'm going to push all my chips in.
Yeah.
And so you can override that bad belief.
And at that point, if you do totally, you're all in, you put all your chips in, then you have, that's your framework, that's your vision, that's your life vision, as it were, or your love relationship vision. So if that's what you have as a vision, all of your decisions, all of your thoughts, you're going to keep going toward that vision. You're not going to do something that would be undermining the relationship.
You never behave inconsistent with your beliefs.
Right,
and if your belief is this is the one, this is it, this is what I'm building, your beliefs are going to be consistent with that. I mean, your actions.
So if you and I always go back to this: if you believe what you believe, your thoughts are based on your beliefs, and your thoughts are what creates your reality. So if you have a certain belief, you will think a certain way, and your reality will be a certain way.
And the next step is you'll think a certain way, which will cause you to take certain actions, which will create the outcomes in your life, which is what creates your life.
It starts with your beliefs.
Well, now, but there's a second part to what, if you listen really carefully, there's a second part to what you guys have said, and that is that you guys really, really, really focus on your own individual personal growth, right? Because you do not want to be in a relationship if the person you're with is abusive or doesn't have their shit together, for lack of a better word, or is collapsing and breaking down on you.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that there's a caveat here. And the caveat is, yes, you're going to go in, committing to being all in, but both of you are making a pact to be the best versions of yourself you can be,
100%.
and to continuously be investing in personal
100%.
growth.
And you can help each other through that.
Exactly.
Like, there's certainly times where I've been not my best self, and John comes in and says, "Here, how can I help you? I want to help you." Same vice versa. I mean, that's just what you do.
We're interested in different kinds of personal development, and I'll share what I'm learning and working on and listening to, and she'll share what she's learning. I mean, it all of a sudden becomes this feedback loop where working on yourself and working on your relationship becomes kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
You merge to a certain extent.
So how do you guys bring personal growth and that quest for personal growth into your lives? Do you do it individually, or do you do it as a couple?
Both.
Give us some examples.
Well, we have read the same book at the same time before. We do a lot of...
We don't do that often.
No, but we do it.
Have done it before.
That's an example of doing it together. So if we work out and listen to books, we both love to listen to books. So if we're listening to the same book, we'll have discussions about it. Or, I mean, we're constantly talking about our life, like our kids, what's going on in their lives, anything. And so if we have a problem with one of the kids, or we have a situation where we need to really step in and put our parenting at the forefront of our life, then we discuss that, and then we discuss it with our kids, and we figure it out. So it's not even so much, there isn't even a differentiation between me and us, or him and us.
So after 30 years together, the edges really do blur. I mean, it's like we have sort of a collective consciousness, and sometimes I'm not sure where Missy's knowledge begins and mine ends. We've really merged. But here's how I would say that sort of concisely. We do a lot of personal development work and study on our own. Like when we're working out, we'll listen to books like Missy says. But we spend so much time talking about our life vision. It's our favorite subject. So we'll talk, we'll go out for dates, and the dinner conversation will be about our life vision, what it is that we're trying to create, about our kids, about the home that we're going to build, about the businesses that we're running. And this is the subject of our discussions. We have nighttime rituals where we'll be doing energy work on each other, massage, making love, going back and forth between those things, and talking about our lives, talking about what we're trying to build together. That's personal development. Interacting, discussing how to apply best practices to our situation, how to create the right strategies to get where we want to go. So we consume information together, we bring it together, and we discuss, but it's always sort of like applied personal development. How can we use these things that we're learning separately and then bringing together to move our life forward to where we want it to be?
That's beautiful. And another thing that I would add is that we spend almost all of our time together.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
know that sounds probably pretty crazy to a lot of people, but that's a very unusual thing, I would say.
We work together.
We do everything together.
Yeah, we really do.
Doesn't that drive you insane?
We
No.
can't get enough of each other.
No,
We really can't get enough
Because
of each other.
I've heard advice that you should never go into business with your spouse.
So Vishen, you know that this is one of the massive tenets of Lifebook that kind of makes it unique in all the personal development world. We say over and over and over again, there is no one size fits all. There is no one strategy in any category of life that's going to work for all 6.5 billion people on this planet. It just doesn't work that way. So when we talk about our love relationship strategies, we're sharing what has worked for us. That's all we're doing. We're not saying that it'll work for you. We know wonderful couples that we love that actually have a great relationship. That if they work together, one of them's going to shoot the other one. There's going to be a homicide.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? This is not a strategy that works for everybody. But we also have some friends, some of our dearest friends, Pat and Lori, who are here in Bali with us. You know, they work together, and they're like us. They can't get enough of each other.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
It certainly works for us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, surely there are certain premises, certain models of reality that you notice that other people commonly have.
Yeah.
That you're looking at and you're going, oh my God, why do people believe that rubbish? What do you think are some of the dangerous beliefs around love and relationships that most of society carries with them?
That's a great question.
So here's the first one that comes to mind is that relationships will deteriorate over time. That you can't keep the same level of passion and excitement and enjoyability that you had in the first year. There's no way that's going to be there in the 10th year.
You're right. And
No
I
way.
bet you, most of you listening, 90% of you automatically just believe this.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Expect to believe always.
And I will tell you this, that is a bullshit rule. Because, let me just say this, it doesn't apply to every couple. Our relationship has gotten better and better every year.
Deeper
Our sex
and
life,
deeper.
after 27, 28 years together, is at a different level than it's ever been. Now, that is something that even surprised us.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the second one, right? That the quality of your sex life is going to go down as you get older and wrinkly.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, so far,
By the way, guys, you are not wrinkly at all.
Well, we'll see. Once we get to the wrinkly part, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
check in with us in 20 years. But so far, we're
Wait,
some wood.
just so the audience knows, how you guys want to share your age?
Sure. I'm 27.
And I'm 32.
I'm 48, and he's
And I'm 55 next month.
almost 55.
Yeah, they're a pretty good-looking couple.
Thank
people.
you.
Thanks, man.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so go on.
Oh, let's see. So what was I saying?
So we said one of the first
beliefs.
rules that people have about
Yeah.
love is that the quality of your relationship deteriorates over time.
Yeah.
Second rule people have about love is that the quality of your sex life
Right.
Oh, I
deteriorates
have a
over
good
time.
one. I have a great one. So many women that I know believe that if they pour themselves fully, surrender into their man, they will lose themselves.
Yeah, true.
And I'll tell you, it's a scary thing to get to that edge, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go all the way in. It's all about Jon. Everything's about Jon. And once, or your spouse, whatever his name is, or your partner, once you get over that, it's like an instant you jumped into this most amazing pool of gold goodness, and you realize, oh my gosh, he is everything to me, but I am everything to him. I don't have to worry about myself anymore. He worries about me. He worries about me more than he worries about himself. It's hard to really completely describe this, but we talk about it, it's about going all in, and it's horrifying. I think that when you're up right to the edge of saying, okay, I'm going to lose my ego completely, and I'm not going to have any of my own things, I'm not going to have any of my own ideas or anything. And if you can just get yourself to absolutely say, screw it, and go in, you get the biggest prize
Wait, but are you saying?
of the universe.
But are you saying that? But surely you're not saying that the woman shouldn't have any of her own ideas or any of her own.
No,
Well,
but
it
the
works
fear.
both ways. This isn't just about the woman. The man does the
Oh,
same thing.
You have to do
in
both.
going all in.
You have to do both.
Let me try to describe it. Let me see if I can get this to land. So
Okay.
it's like I have one thing that I have to worry about, and if I take care of this one thing in my life, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah.
And that one thing is Missy's needs. If I take care of Missy, everything in my life is taken care of. My life completely works. She takes complete care of me. Every need I have will be attended to. All I need to do is make sure she is healthy and happy and fulfilled and okay. And if I can just do that one thing, everything else happens for me automatically.
Right.
But how do you prevent that from getting you into an unhealthy level of codependence?
Well, we don't necessarily think that codependence is unhealthy. Matter of fact, we're writing a book called The Joy of Codependence.
The
and
health
so we
of codependence.
think
Really?
that codependence is a total bullshit rule.
Actually, it should be called the wealth of codependence, maybe. Anyway, who knows?
So, but here's the thing: codependence has gotten a bad name.
Yeah.
For
lots of good reasons.
Well, the bottom line is this: unhealthy codependence, where you're not fully self-actualized, where you're not an autonomous person, where you have pieces of your personality missing, and you're looking for somebody to latch on to fulfill missing parts of you. That's unhealthy.
Yeah,
the kind of
that doesn't
codependence that we have, Vishen, you know us deeply. There's no missing pieces in either of us individually. But we couldn't even have a prayer to have a life remotely resembling what we have without codependence.
You are both extremely assertive, powerful individuals who are completely immersed in each other.
Exactly.
Totally. 100%.
And we're extremely codependent. Here's an example. We spend months of the year, every year, living in a different part of the world. We take our kids, we used to take them out of public school where they went, and we'll go to Africa for 4 months, or Southeast Asia usually calls us, and it's one of our favorite places. And how we made that happen is that Missy is a master of going into the school, working with the teachers, working with the principals, telling them what we're going to do, just doing whatever she needs to do to make the situation work. I'd screw that up 99 out of 100 times. I could not make that happen.
I keep him so far away from school.
I can't. I'm not allowed to go within a 5-mile radius of school because it's just not going to work.
Oh my God.
So this is a perfect example of I would not be able to live the lifestyle we live if it wasn't for Missy's skills. And then the same thing the other way around.
100%.
So she has this vast amount of value that she brings to our world, and I have this vast amount of value that I bring to our world, and we would be incompetent in each other's areas.
Well, here's the thing: we could do it if we had to do it. If you had to go, if you were a single parent and you had to go to school and make that happen, you could do it.
Never.
Okay, well, you maybe maybe you do something else. But for example, like you take care of all of the intellectual precision that drives our life. It's not my thing.
Right.
However, I mean, if I had to, I would figure it out. I would funnel along and do my thing. But the point is, we are completely whole individuals.
We're whole individuals who come together and are. So let's take a look at the word codependence. The lifestyle that we have requires a tremendous amount of codependence on each other. A tremendous amount. There are huge pieces of it that I could never plug in, and huge pieces that Missy could never plug in. But the two of us together, the whole package is there.
Right.
We can go so much farther out with this codependent approach than we ever could on our own.
So remember that scene from Jerry Maguire, where Jerry Maguire goes up to that woman he's fallen in love with, and he says, "You complete me."
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people over the last decade or so since that movie came out criticized that scene. They said, "Well, no one should ever complete you. You should be complete on your own." What would you guys say to that?
Well, again, everybody has their own way. So I'm coming from my perspective. I lost 2 younger brothers to drugs and alcohol. My dad almost lost him many, many times, and I've struggled with it. It's almost gotten me twice in my life. Without Missy, I wouldn't be alive. Missy, maybe I did have a missing piece in my life, but the bottom line is she filled it. And if I wouldn't have had her to pull me through, especially in my younger years, like my angel, I wouldn't be here right now. So judge it however you want to judge it. But the bottom line is, Missy completes me, and I am unapologetic for that. It worked in my case.
I love that. That's so absolutely beautiful to hear.
And I could not live without Jon. Bottom line is, he is my purpose. He is my purpose. The reason that I am here, I truly believe deep in my soul, it's in my life book, My purpose in my life, the reason I'm alive, is to be his love, his angel, his wife, the mother of his children, the grandmother of all of our grandchildren. It's my purpose. So that's where we're at. And I feel, I don't really even know how or why that happened, Vishen. I'm just really grateful for it. So we try to deconstruct it to help other people, but sometimes we get a little lost in doing that.
You guys just have a completely beautiful, but in some ways unusual
It is unusual.
premise on love.
Yeah.
It is unusual,
Yeah.
but it's incredible to see it work so well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's why we're very careful not to preach this is the way. Because,
Yeah.
first of all, the truth of the matter is that not everyone can have this. You have to be set up a certain way. You have to be willing to leave your ego at the door. You have to be willing to have a purpose that's bigger than your petty wants, needs, and desires in order to create something like this. You may have to be set up psychologically like we are, I don't know. But that's why we're so careful not to go out there preaching that this is the way that love relationships should be. The truth of the matter is, you should find your own DNA. You should figure out what your ideal situation is. We know a lot of couples that are very independent, that live two very independent lives, but they come together and they have a beautiful relationship. We have a very dependent relationship on each other. So there's no one size fits all again. But we sure are fortunate and grateful that our love took the path that it did.
So what would be some of the practices that you'd recommend people watching here might want to bring into their relationships, whether you're married or dating or just in a relationship with someone?
Let me set it up by saying this. Regardless of whether or not everyone can have what we have, there are strategies that we use that any couple can apply to make their relationship better no matter what. So we'll share a couple of those right now. So in other words, this may not be fully scalable, but there are pieces that you can take and apply to your love that will make it better. We say that our number one strategy that we share with people, if you want to create your version of your extraordinary love affair, are connection rituals. And we have 4 or 5 different kinds of connection rituals. And to us, because what is a relationship about? It's about two people connecting at the deepest level that you can possibly connect. So a few of our rituals are, we have a daily connection ritual called our ring walk, where after work, we'll walk around our garden for sometimes as long as an hour. Have a cocktail sometimes at the end of the day. Although we haven't been drinking as much as we used to, so sometimes we have a kombucha now.
Yeah.
It's to relax and it's to connect after the busyness of the day, to catch up on what Missy did today and what I did today, and that's a phenomenal ritual.
It's amazing.
Another one is date nights.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that?
So date nights are once a week. We've done this for 30 years. We go somewhere, or we send our kids away now because they're older.
It's an overnight date, which is super important to us.
24 hours overnight. You don't go out to dinner and come back and tuck your kids into bed, because that breaks the magic.
Breaks the spell.
So it's literally a full immersion of 24 hours of just being in each other's space and time.
Grown-up time.
Yes.
Sex time. Sensuality time. Intimate time.
Yes.
Deep conversation time.
Right.
Time to talk about life vision. Time to go out and have some fun together.
We even have had in the past a sex date. Like we would have when we've had super busy life for a long time. Now it's slowing down and we're having a lot more fun. But we would actually schedule in our sex dates so that we wouldn't miss sex, because that's like one of the deepest connections you can have. And it wasn't just like, okay, we have to have sex tonight. It was a whole ritual.
Big production. One of us handles
you have to get in the mood. You can't just say, oh, tonight's sex night, we got to do it.
One of us handles the environment, the candles, the aroma, the music, the lighting, all that stuff.
That's important.
The other handles the dinner reservations or whatever it's going to be, and we look forward to it all week. And
totally. So that's different than going to a movie or just going to dinner. I mean, dinner's better than going to a movie, because if you just go to a movie and watch a movie, you're not, unless you really, it's a spiritual or a personal development experience. Right. You're just sitting there side by side. So it's interactive. Your date has to be interactive. And I would highly suggest putting in 2 nights of a sex date. It could be an evening, it could be a morning, it could be a day, whatever, but at least twice a week, have sex at least twice a week. At least, right?
Bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
And then a couple more great connection rituals are quarterly trips alone together, even if it's just a weekend, once every three months, just getting away and having a few straight days together. And then we take a yearly life book trip together where we basically, it's a week, it's usually at a spa somewhere, and we do nothing but dig into our life vision. And it's a once-a-year thing where it's like, okay, what's this year going to be about? What do we want to build? What worked last year? What didn't work last year? What do we want to pull forward? Yeah. So those are 4 connection rituals.
And you do this together.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We plan our trips together. Sometimes I'll plan a trip and surprise him, or he'll do the same with me. I mean, we don't. This is mandatory in our relationship. It's part of the way we stay connected, because communication is the key, I think, to any relationship. You have to be able to communicate and to understand the other one, and to be understood. So one other thing I wanted to share about, this is some way that you can just process a relationship. It is literally to control your thoughts. If you're in a situation where you're in a fight or an argument, or it's not feeling really good, the first thing, if you can possibly muster up the consciousness to do this, is to not let your thoughts go down a dark road or a bad road. If Jon and I are not fully connected one day, or not clicking all the way, the first thing, if I can get myself to do it, is, okay, I'm not going to think he's being an asshole, or even a thought, or gosh, that was really mean. Or instead of thinking a negative thought, thinking, okay, I don't like this anymore, so what can I do? How can I positively affect the situation? Literally down to your thoughts about the other person. That has cut out so much trouble of all kinds, just with the way you think. Just the way
and
you
one of
let
the
your
best
thoughts
things,
go.
like if you're starting to go down a negative road, if you're feeling like everyone gets grumpy, every once in a while, or if you're feeling like this is going to be a stressful situation or a stressful day, our number one strategy is to move away from each other. That alleviates a lot of stuff right there, and until you can kind of get control of yourself.
Right.
And then our rule from the first year of our relationship was, if we get in a situation where we're being cranky to each other, or where we're in a fight or an argument, the first one who can come to their senses and apologize to the other one and make everything right is the hero.
Yeah.
We've always celebrated that.
Very
The
true.
first one who can break that crust of the bullshit of whatever's going on, and come to the other one and say, sorry, I said that.
Even if you're not the one that was at fault,
Right, doesn't matter.
That's such a fascinating technique.
You can literally feel your heart and your body growing bigger if you're the one that goes.
So we race to that. We literally race, and then it's always,
That's true.
it's always
And it's
100% of
amazing.
the time it's the same.
Yeah.
The first one will say, sorry, I said that.
Yeah.
And the second one will say, I'm sorry too.
And then
it
it's
will be over right there,
over.
and boom.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There's another one.
So that I find that fascinating. I've never read about that anywhere, but
We
what I find
invented that.
interesting about that is that you've set up the rules for winning the game
Yeah, that's right.
or the rules for winning the argument before the argument actually starts.
Yeah.
And the rule for winning is to
very
be the
true.
first person to
Come to your senses
and apologize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then do you keep score? Like who wins the most
Do
arguments
not
by
keep score
apologizing?
ever. That's another thing.
No, that
We're not
brings up a great point.
Yeah.
Because you talk about premises.
Yeah.
Keeping score is probably the worst
Death.
enemy of a great. It's
Death.
probably literally the single thing that hurts more relationships than anything else.
Yeah.
Is keeping score in any way, shape, or form. You got to let that kind of thinking go. That's not being all in.
Yeah.
Right. So we got rid of that a long time ago. Although I have a big scorecard in my closet that no, that's not true.
Everyone that knows us knows who's winning, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so what about people who are in relationships right now, okay, and they have been keeping score? So like most couples, something has happened in the past that hurt them, and whether they want to or not, it's there. How would they move beyond that?
That's a tough one, Vishen. We
have to talk about
we
it.
have our highest level program is called Lifebook Ultimate, and it's a very expensive year-long coaching program that Missy and I run ourselves. We don't do it anymore because it has just taken too much of our time and energy, and we get so into it. If we have clients that are at that level with us, we just get so emotionally involved, and so we had to kind of let that program go for now. But half of the couples that walk through our door were having horrible problems in their marriage and in their sex life, and in the situation that you just described. And I think that where we tend to start in helping them work through these issues and get to a better place is by just trying to show them what kind of a pot of gold is at the end of the rainbow if you can work through these issues. Here are the benefits of letting that shit go. If you stop keeping score, if you're able to leave your petty emotions at the door, leave your ego at the door, focus on the bigger picture of what you could create together, the heaven on earth that you could have as a couple, if you're able to let that stuff go. That's kind of where we start to try to get them to see.
Starting with their life vision, really.
Right.
And making sure that they're both on the same page of their life vision, because if they have the same life vision in their love relationship, then you can pretty much work out anything.
Right.
You really can. But a lot of times, some people really just need to go talk to someone. Like we're not therapists.
We're not marriage counselors.
Yeah, right.
So we don't have a specific DNA of leading people through. The other thing is every situation is different.
Totally different.
Every couple has different problems and challenges, and so again, there's no one size fits all. But our start is always the same, trying to communicate to them the heaven on earth that they can create if they get that masculine-feminine balance right, if they start to appreciate each other instead of having a war with each other all the time, and then we start to move toward their vision.
And I think also letting them know that once you have that vision, that's your holy grail. If you really have dreamed up this life vision that you want, or this love vision that you want with your mate, and you guys are both all into the vision, it's like that should decide everything. It's like, okay, is this action right here? I'm really upset right now, or I can't let this petty little thing go. Is that going to serve that that vision of that love, or is it going to hurt it?
Right. And you guys mentioned a lot about life vision. Life vision. Now I know where that's coming from. That's coming from Lifebook. Could you just quickly explain what you mean by that?
Sure.
Would you say being aligned in terms of your life vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Lifebook, what we do is we look at the 12 categories, the 12 most important categories of your life. Most of you know that. Your health and fitness, your intellectual life, your career, your financial life, etc., your love, relationship, parenting. And in each of those categories, we help you create a vision for what you want. How do you want to be living in this category? What do you want this category of your life to look like? Then at the end of the program, we take a look at all of the visions for those categories and pull them into one singular compelling vision for your life. So it's like, okay, this is the life I want to be living in every important area. That becomes the target then of the program. That becomes the goal that you're trying to move to. And in love relationship, what we try to get couples to do is, and we give them good examples in our life, and we try to give them as much to work with as possible, because some couples don't know where to begin. They haven't had the role models, right? They just don't know where to begin. So once we can help them develop a vision for the kind of relationship that they'd like to have, then we just literally start giving them strategies like connection rituals. It's important. Sex is a doorway in. Having a great sex life takes care of so much, because there's no deeper connection than sex. And so that's another thing that we work on is working on their sex life, trying to get a healthier, happier, more sex life without so many of the complications and the what would you say, baby? Yeah, hang-ups. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a big one. If you can get that area of your life handled, a lot of these problems fall of their own weight.
Yeah.
Right? So we start working on strategies to move closer to that vision.
And one of the other big ones, I think, is that you have to communicate, and you especially have to communicate about those hard things. Like you're saying, you were hurt in the past, or there's something that the other one did that's just like totally crossed the line, is unforgivable, but the only way you're going to ever get to the bottom of that and resolve it is you have to talk it all the way down until there's no more emotional charge. There's no more anything, and it is removed. And that takes a long time.
Well,
Sometimes
and
it takes a
let
long
me just say
time.
something about that. You've got to figure out a way to do that and create an environment in which both of you feel safe, neither of you feels judged, where you can feel like you can share honestly and openly and freely without fear of retaliation. That's a mature psychological place to come from.
Yeah.
It's a relatively sophisticated relationship with each other. That so that alone, just being able to get to the place where you can talk about those difficult issues without the emotional charge can be very challenging.
That's helpful. That's when it's helpful to have someone else. To have someone else just kind of help you create that space and keep you on track so that you don't get into a negative spiral, and that's
ideally you do it just the two of you. If you need some help to get going, that I would say is a good thing.
Yeah.
But difficult conversations can be hard to have.
For sure.
So there are two other things you guys talk about, which I notice is unique. One is how much effort you put into being dressing well, being attractive, being physically fit, and having your body in its prime state for the other person.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Well, I mean, that helps with the sex life. That helps with everything.
Definitely. From my perspective, the way that I look at that is, I think that Jon is like the shit. I mean, he's like the most amazing man on the planet Earth. Of course, I should think that, right? He's my man. So he deserves the absolute best. He chose me. He chose me to be his one. So it would be disrespect. I mean, I have to be the best I can be at all times. So that's my perspective.
And my perspective
so
is when I take the time to set up our environment and to light the candles and to get the music right and to make myself look good. When Missy comes down the stairs and she's gorgeous, and we dress up for dinner every night, no matter whether we're alone or whether we're traveling or whatever, this is just what we do. What that says is, I care about you. I care enough about you to go through a little bit of extra effort to delight you. And every single time I watch her come down the stairs, I'm delighted. And I think to myself, it makes me feel special. It makes me feel good. When I take the time and the effort to set things up in a way that I know will delight Missy, that's my way of saying, I care about you. I took the time to cook this for you. I took the time to make this environment beautiful because I want our time together to be the best that it can possibly be. It's a real show of admiration and affection.
And I love the fact that you guys stay so physically fit. Like, you guys are just incredibly healthy and in great shape, and you do it for each other.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do it for ourselves and each other and for our kids, and that's
live
just
a good long life.
Right.
Exactly.
Have more of the same.
So one of the most controversial things you've spoken about, Jon, is your view of feminism and feminine and masculine energy. Let's go there.
Oh my God, you sure?
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
That's the conversation we had once. You spoke about how you feel the feminist movement actually sometimes can teach women the wrong things, and how feminine masculine energy need to be like a yin and yang, okay, for a healthy relationship to happen. But if a woman becomes too masculine or a man becomes too feminine, it can toss that energy system into disarray.
There are a lot of theories about this, and again, I'm not going to sit there and say that our position is the right position. But if you take a look at the beginnings of the feminist movement, it was incredibly needed. Women couldn't vote, for God's sake. I mean, so those early feminists, they had to fight a hard battle, and they were fighting for a noble cause. Unfortunately, one of the things they had to sacrifice in order to win the battle was their femininity. It was their own femininity.
They had to do a masculine act.
It was a masculine act that had to be done to win the rights that they so nobly wanted to win. The women who fought those early battles, and I'm not talking about the 60s and 70s, I'm talking about the 20s and 30s, they weren't fighting for preferential treatment. They weren't fighting for, you know what I mean? They were fighting for equal rights to compete as human beings in the world.
And just be recognized as an equal human
Exactly,
being.
and so
Yeah.
so those early battles were noble. They were needed, and those women sacrificed a lot to get us to where we were. Then I think that a lot of the battles that were fought in the 60s and 70s, some of that stuff needed to happen too. Some of those reforms definitely needed to be made.
So there was a lot of really profound information in a short amount of time. And as we wrap up, Jon and Missy, any closing words?
Well, okay. Here's an interesting thought. When we look back, and we've talked about this quite a bit. When we look back on our time together, you guys, we feel like this relationship created us more than we created it. We clearly, at the very beginning of our relationship, made a conscious decision to create the most extraordinary love affair that we possibly could. So we did make that conscious commitment, and we started going down the road and doing as good as we could. But over time, the effect that it had on us as individuals has been absolutely profound. This relationship made us who we are as people. And then we had more, in turn, to pour back into the relationship. So I guess I'd say there's a big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow if you make a commitment to going all in with the person that you've chosen to have this incredible journey and adventure through life with.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like our relationship is now, it's crossed over into the spiritual realm. It's a sacred thing. It's a sacred thing all on its own, and it
taking on a life of its own.
us. Yeah, so
For sure. So
yeah.
thanks for spending this time with us, Vision. Thanks so much
thank
for
you,
having
Vision.
us.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Absolutely.
So if you enjoyed this training on love and relationships, here are 2 additional trainings you can check out on consciousness engineering. First, Arielle Ford. She's the author of Wabi Sabi Love, and she has a beautiful talk on this program. Second, Danielle Packard, who's known as the Love Doctor. So check those out if you want to explore this particular theme further. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you,
Thanks,
Jon and
Vision.
Missy.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.